Welcome to my channel, ketomealsandrecipes.com. Today, I will be making two versions of a very tasty, keto, gluten-free, and high-protein chicken pot pie. That is so delicious, I'm sure your entire family will love and enjoy it, whether they're keto or not. The first version is the classic version of the chicken pot pie with a double crust. But in order to reduce carbs for those who are more carb sensitive, I'm also making a single top crust only version. Now here are the macronutrients for the classic top and bottom pie crust version, which has a macronutrient ratio of 2.6 to 1 with 15.2 grams of total carbs, 4 grams of soluble fiber, 2.6 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in only 8.6 grams of net carbs per generous serving. On the other hand, the top crust only chicken pot pie has a macronutrient ratio of 2.2 to 1 with 9.3 grams of total carbs, 2.3 grams of soluble fiber, 0.9 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in only 6.1 grams of net carbs per dinner-sized servings. I'm showing the single and the double crust version of this chicken pot pie because I want to provide maximum versatility to my recipes, so you can choose how you implement the recipes to meet your dietary needs. To begin with, you're going to have to do a little bit of prep, and I suggest you begin by making the double batch of my keto pie crust. The link to this and other recipes I'll mention throughout are in the description box. And please watch that video for the details on how to make the pie crust really nice and flaky. If you're making the double pie crust, you have to first make the bottom crust and then blind bake it to a light golden stage. When the crust is done, just set it aside. The next step is to make the filling of the pie. And for this recipe, you can take a shortcut and use your leftover roast chicken or buy a rotisserie chicken in the grocery store. However, most of the time I prefer to start from scratch. I use a raw, skinless, boneless chicken breast, which I pat dry and then coat with oil. Then season both sides with salt and black pepper. And roast these chicken breasts in the oven until the internal temperature is 165 degrees Fahrenheit or 74 degrees Celsius. If by chance your chicken breast had the bones in, all you have to do is very easily remove the bones and then cut the chicken into small 1-inch or 2.5 centimeter cubes and set these cubes of chicken aside. If you're making your chicken from scratch, while it's roasting, you also have time to prepare the vegetables. Begin by dicing the onions into very small pieces. In Mary Berry's chicken pot pie, she uses sweet peas. I'm going to replace them with lower carb green beans. And for this, you can either use fresh green beans, but you have to pre-cook them before putting them into the pie, or use frozen green beans because they're parboiled. Whether you're using the fresh or frozen, cut the beans into 1-inch or 2.5 centimeter lengths and set it aside. Here you have an option. I'm going to use a roasted butternut squash. I began with a raw butternut squash, which I cut into 1-inch cubes. I like all the ingredients in the pie to be about the same size. Coated these cubes in oil and sprinkled lightly with salt. Then I place them into a 400 degree or 200 Celsius preheated oven and bake until these cubes are fork tender. Once they're done, just set them aside. However, if you don't want to use butternut squash, another good substitute for the original recipe, which uses potatoes, is to use chayote, which you would also cube and either oven roast or boil to an al dente stage. You will also need some bacon, so you can either make a batch of oven-fried bacon to a nice light crispy stage and then cut up, which I have video for, or cut the raw bacon into small pieces and then pan fry it like this. Here you also have an alternative. If you don't want to use bacon, you could use cooked ham, which is cut into small pieces like the other ingredients. Once you've prepared either the bacon or the cooked ham, set it aside. To cook and prepare the filling, I'm going to place a soup pot over medium heat and drop in my butter or lard, and when this is melted, drop in my diced onions. All you have to do is saute the onions to a translucent stage. Pour in your chicken bone broth and the heavy cream and add your chosen ingredients. I'm adding my green beans, my roasted butternut squash, and to help thicken things up, I'm going to use glucomannan, also known as konjac root powder. I don't have the video for this, but at this point I dropped in my room temperature cubed cream cheese and stirred it in to help dissolve it in the liquid. And now it's time to drop in the cubed chicken. At this point I'm going to cook for a while so that the cream cheese has an opportunity to melt and blend with the other liquid ingredients. It should take about 5 minutes. To enhance the flavor, I'm going to season with my finely ground salt, and I'm also going to add my dry parsley flakes and white pepper, and of course stir to combine. Lastly, I'm going to drop in my bacon or your ham, whichever you're using, and toss to integrate everything. At this point you will notice that your liquid has become nice and thick, as you can see here. Then bring the liquid to a light simmer and cook for a few more minutes, at which point this chicken pot pie filling is all done. Now it's time to make the top crust only version. I'm going to use a 9-inch by 4-inch deep pie pan into which I'm going to ladle the cooked filling. Having previously prepared my pie crust and rolled it out nice and thin, I'm going to cut it out so that it'll fit nicely over the filling. Cover the top of the pie with aluminum foil and pinch the aluminum foil to the underside of the pie pan. Now for the second version, the one with the double crust, as I already mentioned, I blind baked my 8-inch or standard size pie crust. Then ladle the filling into the pie shell. Roll your remaining pie shell dough into a nice thin layer and cut so that the diameter is about 1 inch larger than the top of the pie. Place this top dough over the filling, then pinch the perimeter to make a nice tight seal that joins the top and the bottom pie shell. You can leave it like this, but I really like to make a fluted edge, and that's quite easy to do as I'm demonstrating here. I do this because I think it looks very nice and presents beautifully, and it also gives it that wonderful old-fashioned homey appearance. And it's not hard to do. When you have assembled the top crust and it's nicely fluted, I like to make about 6 cuts through the crust. These vents are very important to let steam escape as the chicken pot pie is baking. And before putting it in the oven, and this is something that I strongly recommend you also do to protect the fluted edges or the top perimeter of your crust, get a strip of aluminum and wrap it around to protect the fluted or plain edge of your pie. For both versions, place the assembled chicken pot pie in a 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius preheated oven and bake for 20 to 25 minutes. When your pie is done, check to make sure that the pie crust is lightly golden, and if it is, take it out of the oven and let it cool for 5 minutes before serving. Since this is the main part of the meal or the entree, I cut the pieces into 6 servings, which are quite large and substantial for this meal. You can serve this chicken pot pie as is or with some light side dish like a salad. By the way, any leftovers can be refrigerated in an airtight container for up to 3 to 4 days. I do hope that you will find this recipe useful and make it. And when you do, please let me know what you think of this recipe and whether you prefer the double or single crust version. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video. I really appreciate your time. If you have a moment and haven't done so already, please give it a like and share the link with someone else. Your word of mouth is the best support you can give me. Most of all, I hope you come back next Thursday morning when I will post my next new video. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful day. Cheers!